Welcome back, everyone. This is once again Arthur's Gaming, returning with a updated build, updated for our Whirlwind Earthquake Barbarian, based on some new and exciting drops that we got. So, main changes: we did in fact get a different sword, a different one-handed sword. For this sword, uh, we decreased on the wallop, but we got an increase on our overpower aspect. I won't review too much because the main build kind of goes over the stats that you want. The main change here is that we do now, in fact, have a socketed uh, Royal Emerald for the 72% critical strike damage, and we got pretty lucky in terms of our uh, sanctifications and our rolls. The 70% damage is where our sanctification went, and the wallop is from masterworking. As mentioned, wallop plus to wallop is very good. The main changes that I'm going to touch on are these two, which is I now have the grandfather. Thank you, Lord Zer, for dropping this. For our build, we really like the GA on the maximum resource. More maximum resource means more spinning. Um, we got good rolls. We fully upgraded it. The main changes here, obviously, this is now a sword, and we have slotted in Igni Jaw. So again, we're using for this build. This will use to build uh, the offering in order to replace our teleport with or replace evade with sorcerer teleport, snapping us to a location, giving us unstoppable and dealing damage. Obviously, being unstoppable is very good for our build. We sanctified on um, a aspect that I am somewhat familiar with, but I can't remember his name, which is that critical strikes core skills increase my attack speed. So if I am critical striking, I actually will spin even faster. We can see that thanks to the new items, I now actually have a +7 to Whirlwind, so I'm dealing at base 100k damage. I will try to highlight in some gameplay that this pretty much just goes to a million, which is awesome. Another change here is that now our necklace, because we lost the polearm, which had the incendiary fissures, we've had to replace our necklace. So we bought this necklace off D4 Trade. It is a little bit worse in terms of by comparison to our last necklace, only because it does not have a natural GA. But we did get the GA, a sanctified GA on the plus X to heavy handed, and then we just re-rolled this a million times to get a plus to pit fighter. Again, we imprinted on the earthquake size. The earthquake size on this one, sadly, a little bit smaller than our last necklace by 4%. But the aspect did improve in terms of now the earthquakes are dealing 87% damage. Just to call out necklaces, 1.5x modifiers, two-handers are 2x modifiers. Um, so a bit of a change in the build, but overall, we can see my toughness is now shot up all the way to 224. We have a ton of max life. We are now pretty much best in slot for every single slot. There are minor upgrades I think that we need to make. Really, the only big one being the necklace. Ideally, this would be a natural GA 800 item power necklace. And instead of having, it would have another stat for a plus to counter offensive. That would be literally perfect. Um, Outside of that, nothing much has really changed. Obviously, we've gone up in Paragon. To quickly talk about the Paragon, the board really hasn't changed that much. I am now just filling out what I would call like the nice to haves. So we can see I've picked up some more magic nodes for maximum life and total armor and healing received, attack speed and flat damage, critical strike damage. Again, getting total resistance, total resistance, total armor, max life, total armor. Just making ourselves incredibly tanky. I am trying to get the season uh, mission to hit 250. With 250, I'll probably just stay on the same path. I'll probably get, another legendary node like this one with the total resistance to total armor. I'll probably pick up the magic nodes that give me percent physical damage just because it's multiplicative damage, so it's going to be good. And outside of that, I really don't have a core direction. I don't need um, much else. I'll probably try to get the recuperate node on this other board just for the max life and life per second. That should keep me pretty well topped up. Obviously, the glyphs have not changed. Really, the only big change is that they're just higher leveled now. I have been uh, doing some leveling and some pit push, not necessarily a lot of it though. So yeah, those are the main changes to our build. I think the real big changes that we would like is we'd still like a better Fist of Fate, and we'd still like a better natural GA necklace, but with basically all the same modifiers. And in the perfect world, we would drop another grandfather and we would sanctify on it an even better aspect. But in terms of uh, what is best for me now, obviously I'm gonna take any grandfather that I can get because it's just such a good item for the build. To exemplify some of the power we now hold, I'm just gonna quickly come to the Hell Tides and show some spinning gameplay. In terms of the my overall feelings towards the build, obviously I'm still very, very happy with the build. Happier still that I was able to get a grandfather relatively early into season. I would have loved to have dropped it as one of my first mythics, but can't always get that lucky. Um, Outside of the that, we can see as I hover 1,600,000 damage just for the spin. And again, the whirlwind itself is not actually the 4 of our damage. The 4 of our damage is the earthquakes size, the earthquakes like the multiplicative earthquakes, as well as the time they're up. And much easier than before. Well, not much easier, but somewhat easier than before. We're just killing everything. Really to note is that you can see I spin much, much, much faster. This is in part due to the sanctification on the grandfather, just making me critical strike. That's making me spin faster and faster and faster. Um, Ironically, in this build, because of the way the sanctifications have worked out, I now do actually tend to somewhat run out of fury in the more open map content. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I mean, it's annoying to have to hit something once in a while, but as long as enemies spawn on you, you should be fine. Just the same way as the build was with the pole arm. Now that I have the grandfather, I may or may not swap slash update to a bleed build or a rupture based build. I'm not 100% certain if I want to do that or if I would just rather stick with this and try to get my absolute best in slot necklace and gloves just to see how far we can push the build. Um, but yeah, as exemplified, Helltide, pretty much I don't even have any trouble at all with this content now. There's nothing here that's ever going to be able to kill me. Um, the damage overall is obviously higher. It's just happening in a different way. So just a call out that if and when anyone did decide to do bleed, um, just recall that your damage is going to be done a different way, and you do have to think about using rupture. Um, but obviously, that's not what I'm trying to do right now. I'm just trying to enjoy having my grandfather and enjoy spinning at absolute mock speed. Even in terms of just walking around, we can see I've got my 5 earthquakes going. Absolutely no danger of dying. I've got a ton of damage. I've got a ton of resource, and all of the overworld enemies pretty much die in 1 to 2 seconds, and as long as I'm getting hit by something or hitting something, we can see that my max resource is actually ultra high. I'm not touching any shouts right now. There aren't even any enemies to shout right now, and I'm just completely clearing the map, which obviously feels excellent for post game T4. In terms of other callouts for the future of the build, I don't necessarily think I would want Shroud of False Death. I still would like to get a bit better of a GA on my chest, that being the GA to the double damage for earthquakes. I would call that a minor upgrade. It's going to be a DPS only upgrade, which just is going to improve my bossing. Obviously, now in post game that I've got all the mythics that I want, mythic hunting is going to be purely for the sake of either twink leveling or just having maybe my collection of mythics. Normally in season, if I get excessively lucky with mythics, I will sometimes go out of my way to hunt all of them. But most of them really aren't. For this build, obviously, I have all the ones that I need. Ironically, I've broken down probably like 6 or 7 mythics at this point, most of which being the Andariel's Helm, which does nothing for any build that I care about. But I might hunt them because now I have the time and the space to do so, mostly for twink stuff. Again, part and parcel with post game is if you're planning to have another character, do the whisper missions and just store your caches. Again, I'm maxed out pretty much for all my gear, so I don't necessarily even care to look at anything that I drop that isn't either a necklace or specifically Fists of Fate. Still very good to do though is to gamble with the ovals, so that's what I will do. Specifically, I'm going to gamble for GA necklaces. It's very, very hard to get the specific passives that you need. So again, a perfect necklace would involve heavy-handed, hitfire, counteroffensive, probably strength and life. So quite a lot to ask for. We didn't get any of those on this. Anyways, to close off here, main changes now is that we picked up a grandfather. We moved the incendiary fissures to our necklace. We upgraded our uh, single hand sword just to a better sword with flat damage and some better modifiers, as well as the upgraded aspect. And we changed our runes in our weapon in order to better facilitate movement and overall power. That's going to be it for today. Thanks for watching.